My name's Vita Vester. That's Vedavester, and I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana. Well, I have neurofibromatosis type 1, or what they call NF1. I also have congenital pseudoarthrosis of the right tibia and right knee. I have COPD asthma, and I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, as well as many other illnesses. With the NF1, it causes tumors to grow on your nerves. With the congenital pseudoarthrosis of the right tibia and the right knee, it causes the bones to be curved and weak. The COPD asthma causes breathing issues, and the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos causes your joints to be weak and dislocate. Well, I was born with most of my illnesses. Early life wasn't much different than most kids, other than I wore a brace and had to go to the doctor a lot. But I think I was young enough I didn't really notice that as much. It wasn't until later on that I started having the tumors grow on my nerves and having problems with my knee dislocating and breathing issues. There's no cure for any of them, but they do have treatments for many of them, and there are new treatments coming out all the time for NF1. Yeah, there's a few things I have to do differently. For instance, if I go grocery shopping, I have to use my wheelchair because I have a risk of falling down if my legs decide they want to give out. The most difficult thing to deal with? Probably the loss of independence. I'm very independent, so having to ask for help is very frustrating. Some of the things that help me feel better and cope with my symptoms are heat therapy, light stretches, and, well, listening to music. I think that my illnesses stop me from going hiking or working in the garden many times because of the pain that I experience, and because not being able to walk as well anymore. My illnesses are progressive, so they've steadily gotten worse over time. Some of my illnesses, I have symptoms all the time, but from varying degrees. Others, I can go days, weeks, or even months without having a symptom. Having kids who struggle with health issues is a little frustrating because my oldest has some of the same ones I have. So I hate seeing her struggle with them the way I do at times, and sometimes hers are worse. So it's hard to see them go through that. Because of my health problems, I do think I get treated differently sometimes. For the most part, I think it varies from person to person and situation to situation. But there are times I'm definitely treated different than others. I think in terms of accessibility, there needs to be a lot of work done. There are many places that should be accessible that are not. Buildings you would think that a person should be able to get into easily, who has maybe like with me being in a wheelchair, they should have ramps and such as that, and they don't. And many of them are buildings you would think would have these things. For instance, like the parks, or maybe medical buildings like the hospital. It says accessible, but it's kind of hard to open a door to a bathroom when it doesn't have an automatic door opener. And sometimes the stalls aren't really big enough to get the wheelchair through the door. I think the community and the government can improve the lives of people with disabilities and chronic conditions by simply improving accessibility. Accessibility to buildings such as the store or the parks and health facilities. I also think that if they improved healthcare services, like being able to get a massage for people who suffer with things like fibromyalgia, make it to where they could get massages or physical therapy without having to pay more money than they actually make in a month, or and maybe transportation. Some people can't drive. Like, I'm not able to drive, and if I don't have someone to take me, then I can't go to my doctor's appointment. And our town currently has no cab service, so if the buses aren't running, or if it's a long way to go to get to the bus stops, we can't go to our appointments. And currently, I'm having a lot of problems with my teeth, that I've actually got an infection right now, and I only have a certain amount of work I can have done on my teeth in a year. Like, for me to get dentures is almost more than I would make in several months. So, I mean, just a lot of changes to accessibility in all those venues would help. Well, currently I'm taking classes, college classes for writing through Full Sail. Um, it can be a struggle at times because I do really want to get my BFA for creative writing, but my health isn't always cooperative. I do think I'm doing pretty well, all things considered. I have managed to stay on track for the most part. I think most people don't understand that chronic illnesses can leave you feel like you're always sick, and in some ways, you are. And they don't stop to think about how that affects us, or how the way they treat us can affect our health as well. I guess it's some that if you don't have to consider, it's not going to cross your mind. One thing I'd like for people to know about chronic illness is that just because someone has the same illness as I do or as another person doesn't mean they're affected the same way. Everybody's illness is going to have a different way of affecting them. And just because it's easy for me to deal with one of my illnesses doesn't mean someone with the exact same illness is going to handle it the same way. One thing I'd like for people to know that I could add to this is that if you see somebody who's disabled out, whether they're grocery shopping or walking in the park or just anywhere, don't help them without first asking. You can hurt them more than help them if, for like with me, if you move my wheelchair without asking me first, you could do more harm than good.